samurai warriors of land and honor. But what if I told you their greatest battles weren't fought on land at all? What if I told you that the image we have of them, charging across fields with katana drawn, is only half the story? This is the forgotten history of Japan's naval wars, a saga where samurai ruled the seas, commanding fleets of warships centuries before the age of modern navies. Welcome to Neo Historica A.I, where forgotten history comes alive. Today, we're setting sail back to medieval Japan, a time of clashing clans and epic conflict. But we're leaving the castles and battlefields behind. Instead, we're heading to the treacherous coastal waters, where ambitious samurai lords built powerful warships, led daring sea raids, and fought bloody battles for control of the islands and the vital seas that surrounded them. This isn't just a story of swords and honor, it's a story of wind, waves, and fire. Forget everything you thought you knew about the samurai, because their dominion extended far beyond the shore. This is the tale of how they conquered the ocean. So how did it all begin? How did Japan, a nation of islands, transform its warriors into masters of the sea? We have to go back to the 12th century, a time of immense political turmoil. The Heian period was ending, and two powerful clans, the Taira and the Minamoto, were locked in a bitter struggle for control of the imperial court and ultimately, Japan itself. While their armies clashed on land, a new, equally critical front was opening up along Japan's extensive coastline. Control of the sea meant control of everything: trade, transportation, and troop movement. Both the Taira and the Minamoto clans understood this. They began converting simple fishing boats into instruments of war. They weren't sophisticated vessels at first, but they were effective. These ships were reinforced, fitted with wooden shields along the sides to protect the crew, and packed with warriors. The primary weapons weren't cannons, but bows. Archers would unleash storms of arrows, some tipped with flaming pitch, to rain down on enemy ships, setting them ablaze and causing chaos. To get close, they used grappling hooks, pulling enemy vessels in for brutal hand-to-hand combat. Samurai would leap from one deck to another, swords drawn, turning the churning sea into a floating battlefield. These weren't just random skirmishes. They were calculated naval strategies. The Taira, in particular, with their power base along the inland sea, became masterful sailors, using their knowledge of the currents and coastlines to their advantage. This period marked the birth of Japan's naval warfare, setting the stage for one of the most decisive and dramatic conflicts in its history. This struggle between the two clans culminated in the Genpei War, a 5-year conflict from 1180 to 1185 that tore Japan apart. While many famous land battles were fought, the war's ultimate conclusion was decided at sea. The final, legendary showdown took place at the Battle of Dan-Nuara, in the narrow straits separating the islands of Honshu and Kyushu. This wasn't just a battle. It was a grand, tragic spectacle. Hundreds of ships from the Taira and Minamoto fleets converged in these treacherous waters. The Taira seasoned sailors initially had the upper hand. They understood the tides and used them to outmaneuver the Minamoto forces, pushing them back with relentless volleys of arrows. The fate of the Taira clan, including the young Emperor Ontoku whom they held, hung in the balance. But then, the tide turned literally. The current shifted direction, reversing the Taira's advantage and throwing their fleet into disarray. The Minamoto, led by the brilliant strategist Minamoto no Yoshitsune, seized the moment. He famously ordered his archers to aim not for the enemy samurai, but for the rowers and helmsmen controlling the ships. With their vessels now rudderless and drifting helplessly, the Taira fleet became easy targets. Panic set in. The battle became a massacre. Facing certain defeat and capture, the Taira nobles, including the emperor's grandmother, chose death over dishonor, leaping into the waves along with the child emperor and the sacred imperial regalia. The Taira clan was annihilated, sinking beneath the waves forever. With this single naval victory, the Minamoto rose to power, establishing the first shogunate and ushering in the age of the samurai. The tide of war had literally decided the fate of an empire. Following the Genpei War, the importance of naval power was etched into the minds of Japan's ruling class. For the next several centuries, during the Age of Warring States, the sea remained a critical domain of conflict. Local warlords, known as daimyo, didn't just command armies of samurai, they commanded their own private navies. These fleets weren't just for fighting. They were essential for controlling lucrative trade routes, protecting coastal territories, and projecting power. The warships of this era became more specialized. While still made of wood, designs evolved. Some were built for speed and raiding, while others were larger, floating fortresses designed for major engagements. Naval tactics grew more sophisticated as well. Fire arrows remained a staple, turning wooden fleets into floating infernos. But boarding assaults were the ultimate goal. Samurai warriors, clad in armor, would swing across on ropes or use planks to bridge the gap between ships, engaging in desperate close-quarters combat on slippery, blood-soaked decks. These commanders also became masters of using the environment. They used storms and fog as cover for surprise attacks, and understood how to use coastal geography to trap enemy fleets. It was a deadly dance between chaos and control. It's crucial to understand that these weren't disorganized pirates. These were disciplined naval forces, known as kaizoku, but operating under the direct command of a samurai lord. They were an extension of the clan's military might, fighting for survival, honor, and dominance in a fractured Japan. Their battles were as fierce and strategic as any fought on land. But the greatest test of Japan's samurai navies was yet to come. In the late 13th century, a threat unlike any other appeared on the horizon: the Mongol Empire. Under Kublai Khan, the Mongols had conquered a vast portion of Asia, and now set their sights on Japan. In 1274, and again in 1281, the Khan unleashed the largest invasion fleets the world had ever seen, intending to crush the samurai and subjugate their islands. The Japanese were vastly outnumbered. The Mongol armada consisted of thousands of ships carrying tens of thousands of warriors from across their empire. In the face of this overwhelming force, the samurai took to their smaller, more maneuverable ships. They couldn't win a head-on battle against the massive Mongol junks, so they resorted to daring guerrilla tactics. Under the cover of darkness, they would launch lightning raids, swarming a single Mongol ship, setting it on fire, and sowing confusion before melting back into the night. For weeks, the samurai fleets harassed the invaders, preventing them from establishing a secure beachhead. They fought with desperate courage, buying precious time. And then, nature intervened. In both invasion attempts, a massive typhoon descended upon the Mongol fleet. The storm, later revered as the kamikaze or divine wind, was catastrophic. It smashed the Mongol armada against the rocks, sinking hundreds of ships and drowning thousands of soldiers. the invasion was shattered. While the divine wind gets much of the credit, it was the relentless resistance of the samurai sailors that held off the invaders long enough for the storm to strike. They, and the typhoon, had saved Japan from foreign conquest. From the chaotic ship-to-ship clashes of the Genpei War to the desperate defense against the Mongol hordes, the story of the samurai is inseparable from the sea. Their naval battles, fought with flaming arrows, clashing swords, and masterful strategy, redefined warfare and secured the fate of their nation. These were not just forgotten footnotes in history. They were legends forged in wind, water, and fire, proving that the spirit of the warrior could conquer any domain, whether on land or on the open ocean. If you love exploring real history that feels as epic and cinematic as any blockbuster film, make sure to subscribe to Neo Historica A.I. We're always digging up the past to bring you the stories you never knew. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one, where the past sails again.